Welcome back, everyone. Today we've got the ultimate Ogryn guide update for smashing your way through some tier 5 games. And of course, it wouldn't be a true build video without a cringe name. And today we're up massive with the new build, Gigantus. And there's an update to our Berserker build because of some feat changes. And I also have Vods of all the weapon combinations and clips in the video linked in the description on my alt channel that I upload almost all my random games to. But we're lighting this off with the highest damage build Ogryn can bring to the table, letting you carry the shouties all the way to the dropship every single time. And it's going to make you feel like Terry Crews from the Expendables, an absolute abomination of rippling muscles, tearing everything to pieces in front of you, and you're going to look damn good doing it. So the first feat you're going to need to do that is Linchpin, and with this setup, you'll rarely have to heavy attack, and the extra recharge rate goes a long way. Then on row 2, Heavyweight is going to let you delete the other thick boys who think they can contend with you, and the other feats in this row start falling behind because our key melee weapon for this build is going to be the Mark III Cleaver, and you barely ever heavy attack with it unless you like force yourself to. So row 3 is going to be Bullfighter. This feat's insanely clutch, and resetting your ultimate is going to come in massive and just have crazy build synergy with our final row. But more importantly, you get an attack speed steroid that lets you tear everything to pieces, and with the Cleaver, it feels crazy strong. And on row 4, we're taking more toughness regen when below 25%. This is going to let us be the beefcake we need to be when things get spicy, because we aren't ever really bleeding anything to take advantage of the damage reduction, and Hard as Nails never really sees a lot of value unless you're duo queuing. Then on row 5, we take Raging Bull. Even post nerf, it lets you cut everything to pieces with your light attacks, and you're going to be hard spamming with them. And then payback time just isn't what it used to be. You almost never get melee attacked with any Ogryn build, and the heavy attack feat just doesn't gain the value with the Cleaver for the reasons we talked about already. Then finally, we're going for non-stop violence, and with the Bullfighter feat we talked about earlier, it'll let you spam reset your toughness and help sweat off the shooty boys, which are your biggest and only threat. And as for unstoppable, only worth taking when you want to get the penance, and Bulgor is in a state where it's pointless because by the time the mobs stand up, the bleed stacks fall off, and I still think this needs more attention before it's even worth taking. So all of this combined is going to give you perfect build synergy that makes you even stronger as you get lower, and lets you clutch when it actually needs to happen, and lets you spam reset your toughness for some true W key energy for you to become the gigantic berserker you were meant to be, with no regrets, not even a single letter, because you're an Ogryn and you can't read anyways, which also means your weapons need to be as simple as your mind, and the Ripper gun is meant to make an absolute mess of the entire map. This auto shotgun lights off harder than fireworks at Chinese New Year's and gives you that Terry Crews energy we all know and love. But there's a debate. Which is better, the Mark II or the Mark V? And it's personal preference at the end of the day. And the key thing to remember is they're automatic shotguns. They're meant to clear out the room, with the two having a focus on higher pellet count and spray to let you mow down a horde of whatever might end up in front of you, while also being substantially easier to control. But the Mark V has a higher rate of fire, and you might miss a few shots due to skill diff here and there, but also has a lower pellet count, so it ends up being better at single target because of damage distribution. We know that thanks to the min-num pellet technology that Commissar Tira has blessed us with, and it makes us seeing how things actually work quite a bit easier. So it really just comes down to what you like better with the two, but I have both linked in the description, that way you can directly compare them. I just think that either one that you pick, you're going to have an insane amount of fun with. And for perks and blessings, you really want crit chance in either unarmored, flak, or unyielding. All three are great percent damages, and if you hate RNG, you can just use 2 types of percent damage, but doubling the Ogryn's crit chance from 10% from the base of 5 goes a long way on the Ripper guns because of the way crit chance actually works on them. We talked about it before, but the summary is that sometimes it bugs out and the entire magazine crits instead of just 1 in 10 shots. So you'll be blazing away with crazy armor pen because can opener applies to range attacks right now too, letting you tear crushers apart. There really isn't anything the Rippers can't do right now. It's one of the best weapons not only for your kit, but in the entire game. And I'll update the pinned comment eventually when they do fix this. And one thing that I see come up a lot that makes no sense is people getting hung up on sniping with every weapon in the game. Just because something can't shoot across the map doesn't mean it's bad. These have damage fall off. They're shotguns. Use them like shotguns. If you see a sniper, box. I see so many Ogryns not even use their box the entire game, and keep 2 like they're the holy grail that can't be touched or something. And box also creates wholesome moments.
Not so big, beauty.
Classic.
So use the box, because when the melee brawl starts, you're pulling out the Mark III Cleaver and it's going to chop everything in front of you to pieces in seconds. Again, I like crit chance for the armor peen modifier it gives you, and it just comes in clutch in a lot of situations. But again, if you hate RNG, the majority of things that you're going to be cleaving into are unarmored and flak percent, so both of those are fine. Then for Blessing, Slaughter goes huge on this thing, and when it's stacked up, you really start melting everything. And when you pair it with momentum, the build synergy gets absolutely disgusting. So not only are you melting everything, your toughness is capped tapping out all the time. But our Berserker build also got a massive update and is more focused on bleeding targets and beefcaking through crazy amounts of damage while controlling the flow of the game. This build is a lot better for team play, but also lets you solo carry with amazing build synergy. So row 1 again is Linchpin. It's one of my favorites. It goes insanely hard for every situation. And even though the 20% toughness on either of these feats is okay, it doesn't compare to what you'll get back from Linchpin. And when you do end up heavy attacking, Blood and Thunder is a key feat to tie the whole thing together. And again, the row 3 feat with the ultimate reset is going to keep you healthy and let you pump out crazy damage. And row 4 is where you start seeing the big synergy that makes you tankier than having loaded dice and an invulnerable save. Then row 5 is where we saw changes, and we no longer want to take payback time because of this. You really want knock them down, beat them up, because it's so easy to stack up with all the weapons you'll use with this build. You'll just get a lot of extra value from it. And row 6, non-stop violence. Again, the toughness reset is just way too valuable to not take, and you're already stacking bleed, so those extra couple of stacks aren't really going to do anything for you. And in practice, you can really see the difference between the two when you use the best weapon combos, and the Power Maul is the absolute strongest for this build. The light attack explosion lets you stack this up to 25 in just one attack most of the time, making your heavy bonk knock whatever you need out of the park. Then the perks follow the same things I talked about earlier, and even though the blessings for this thing are mediocre right now, Skull Crusher is still great for stacking damage, but you'll want to leave the second slot open for whenever Power Surge goes live. I'm assuming it's going to be similar to Power Cycler, but we'll just have to wait and see. Either way, anytime there's a new blessing or an update to a blessing, it ends up breaking the game, so have fun with it while you can. And I really do think this has perfect synergy with this build. But there are other melee weapons you can use, and I know a lot of people just don't like sticking to one thing. So they're popped up right here. I won't deep dive them, but they're all really solid pickups if you feel like mixing it up, and all thrive with heavy attacks. But we do have to talk about the shield before we move on, and a lot of people hate the shield because of a player skill diff. But I've only ever seen 1 or 2 Ogryns just perform horribly with the shield in Damnation. It hasn't really been a thing for me, because in the right hands it has insanely high impact, and combined with the right perks and blessings, it makes you an absolute machine. The bonus stamina and block percent beef it up and let you tonk a lot more with your RMB, and that ends up going a long way. You don't have to be planting the shield, and a lot of the times there isn't situations where it's actually good to put it down. So just some examples. Moving up front and planting the shield in the firefight to draw shots can be good, but the shooty boys can still target your teammates behind you and shoot right through the shield, and your teammates can't shoot through you. So this is only occasionally good, and then blocking a choke from a Zerg can be okay by letting your teammates melee through you, but most of the time heavy attacking to knock it all down to get the bleed rolling is just better. Then I guess Demon Host tanking, but nobody ever wants to fight them anyways because of the amount of corruption they put on you. And in the future, I guess monstrosities are bosses when it gets taunt, but taunt isn't in the game yet, so again, planting the shield doesn't have a lot of situations where it's more valuable than actually just attacking, so its single target is very mediocre, and its horde control with a bunch of elites and Ogryns mixed in is where it really shines by letting you just knock them all down. They can't ever really attack you back, and then you just tick them down, bleeding everything out. But I will still recommend the Power Maul over all the other weapons with this build combined with a Ripper Gun. The two combined is just so powerful right now after the blessing update that there's really no situations where this build is ever going to fall flat. But your build synergy can also benefit from the AoE CC on the Grenadier Gauntlet or the Rumbler to stack your heavy attacks, with the Grenadier Gauntlet being more for single target sniping due to low AoE damage, and the Rumbler having the same snipe feature with high AoE damage. Both are solid pickups and they're more of a personal preference thing, but a lot of the time you'll see me using the heavy Stubber. I think it's one of the coolest, most fun thematic weapons in the game to use. It's just so big and powerful and gives me that Predator 1 vibe in the jungle. It just feels all around amazing to use and has great base values, so even after the other things get nerfed, it will still be a really solid pickup. And you can almost shoot forever with the perfect perks and blessings, so again, it's just one of the most fun weapons in the game to use. And as for the Kickback, it's pretty good after its buff, but it's not Ripper status. But to support both builds, you're going to need some stacked Curios, and if you take 3 HP percent, you'll be pretty happy with a massive health pool. But I've had success with 2 HP and 1 toughness. It really just depends what you get good rolls with first, and I just haven't swapped out this to 3 HP yet because I haven't had a 3rd HP Curio roll as good as this toughness one. So you're really going to be looking for toughness regen, speed, and combat ability regen as the main 2, but if you're lucky and get to go for a 3rd, more percent toughness or HP are always really solid, and I've seen a lot of value in some stamina regen too. But again, the shield is going to need extra block efficiency if you want to make the most out of it. Either way, both builds give you enough damage to take over, with Gigantus being focused on raw damage output, and the Bleed Berserker build lets you control the flow of the game and slow it down when things get really hard. And I've said this before, but when you can slow the game down and stop the AI from taking control, it gives your teammates more room to breathe and give them time to make better decisions. And let's be honest, not everyone can make the same smooth brain Giga Chad decisions as an Ogryn. Sometimes they need more time to figure out the simplest solution, which is just kill everything on the screen in front of you. So both builds will hard carry and clutch situations that would otherwise end the game. Just make sure you actually don't run it down mid. Standing to the sides to attack makes shouties less shouty and a lot more happy. So let me know what you think about Ogryn. I think it gets a bad rap right now just from some rage players that have never really left T3 and they've all just started doing T5 for rewards. So that's all for now, and I hope you have a great night, and I look forward to seeing you again soon.